is if I said int num a is equal to 3, what I can do, here, let's print this out. So print out num a. What you can also do is if you cast it, let me show you here. You can put like an int in front of it in parentheses, and then of num a. Oops, there's already an int. That's embarrassing. Let's make it a double. Num a. Jeez, there we go. So now, when you run this, you'll notice it casts it into something else. It changes the type. That's what it's called, type casting. So it changed it from an int to a double. Okay, so I could have made this a double initially and just done 3 point whatever. Oops, shouldn't have put an E in there. I just did a bunch of numbers. And then if you cast it as an int, it basically, here, let's do this just to show you how this works. So now I'm casting it as an int. Watch what happens. Here, let me get rid of this. Close. You'll notice that it prints out the 3.99, but then it truncates that because it makes it an int. So the main thing we're trying to do today is evaluate arithmetic expressions that use casting. Okay. But the essential knowledge right here, if you notice bullet point number 4, it says values of type double can be rounded to the nearest integer by casting the int and adding the 0.5, or casting the int and subtracting 0.5 for negative numbers. Okay. So that's the main thing you do have to know for today's activity. The activity explains it though too. So again, this is just a sneak preview. It's not meant to be the full lesson. The casting operator up top, if you notice, it's got an integer or a parentheses inside of the integer or parentheses inside of the double. That just means to change whatever is after it into whatever type that we have. This one says casting a double to an int causes the digits to the right to just be truncated, so they fall off. Essentially, some programming code causes int values to automatically cast. Actually, I have coding overview that talks about all this, so I should just show you examples rather than keeping this abstract. All right, let's do this. I should rename it. All right, so this first one right here, if you notice, it says int num a is 3. Before casting, it's just going to print out what num a is, which is an int, and then I'm going to cast it here by making it a double. Okay, so that's what that's going to do, is just make it a double. And then I showed you right here, this one is 3.999. Before casting, it's just going to print it out as is. This one is just going to output 3. It's going to get rid of the 0.999. Okay, and then the example that I was using for converting automatically, if you add an int with a double, it automatically casts it as a double. Okay, so let's run this. Oh, that didn't change the name of it. That's kind of annoying. It usually does that. I wonder if main is like a special name for that or something. Let's do this. Main, run this. Okay, ignore the stuff on the top here. So before casting, it's the 3, but then I casted it as a double and it became a 3.0. Okay, anytime it has a decimal place, it's automatically a double. Okay, it could be 3.00. It doesn't matter. It's casted as a double. Before casting the 3.9, and then after you cast it, it rounds it down. Okay, here I added an int with a double, and if you notice, it automatically turned it into a double. I can cast that if I wanted to and make it an int. It would just be 6. The next thing is the highest possible integer and lowest possible integer. If you notice, this is the highest, this is the lowest. So that means however many numbers it is, it's 2 to the 32nd minus 1, essentially, for the highest, because you're counting 0. Zero counts as a number because it's held in memory somewhere, so it's taking up a spot. So if you're wondering why the highest integer is 1 less than the lowest, that's why. You do have to know what's causing this highest and lowest integer. So I have it right here. It says right here, integer, capital integer, and then dot min value, capital integer, dot max value. That is on a list of things you have to know. So it is part of the essential knowledge. So you do have to essentially memorize that to know what that is. Oh, right here, complete the code below to round. We already did that, so I'm not going to worry about it. Actually, I'll just write it in here. No, I don't feel like it, because then I got to deal with all these parentheses. Hold on. Sorry. I just didn't want to rehash the rounding. All right, right here, it says, I put a comment in. What happens if I lower this value? So what happens if in here I lowered the value by 1? You could do lowest double. It's just not on the test, so that's why I'm not focusing on it. Let me clear this out, and then let's run it again. I did the -1 from the min. If you notice, it became the highest integer value just from minusing 1. Okay, so you do have to mind like how big of the numbers are, because that's how much is allocated for specific values.